Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington T-Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we're here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi. And today, because I've had so many people asking me about therapy dogs, assistance dogs, service dogs, we're going to start with the basics and work our way through all of these different kinds of things that our dogs can be doing. So the first one, and the most important one for every pet owner, is the Canine Good Citizen Test. That's called the CGC, Canine Good Citizen Test, and you can find out information about it on the AKC, American Kennel Club website. And this was a test developed, it's 10 steps, that's a non-competitive test for all kinds of dogs, purebreds, mixed breeds. It's not one that they give you when you're a puppy. I think you have to be at least a year old to earn a CGC that will stand. You can take it before then, but you have to retake it when your puppy's older. And this CGC test is a prerequisite for many, many therapy dog groups. And also, if you're just bringing your dog, for instance, into a school or a library to do a reading program, the CGC test is often a requirement. Many, many dog training facilities have someone there who can do the CGC test for you. And you can train your dog yourself, and you can practice as much as you want yourself before you bring him to be tested. And lots of places that I've been to, breed clubs, rescue weekends, that sort of thing, like the Bernese Mountain Dog Rescue Weekend, might have somebody there doing this kind of test for you and your dog. And certainly with the Malamutes, I have been able to bring some people from other breeds to get tested at their events, and they're just a great group of people with the Malamutes around here. But anyway, you can find a place that will do the testing for you once you've trained your dog to do these 10 things. Lots of apartments and condo associations are now also requiring that your dog have a CGC to live there. And many places that have a lease will stipulate that your dog can live there if he has a CGC. And I'm thinking that's going to be happening in more and more hotels as more people travel with their pets, that it will be preferred that if they have a CGC, that indicates that they are a good citizen and are acceptable as a hotel guest, just like they would be acceptable to stay in an apartment. So part of the CGC program, and we'll get to this at the end, is the AKC CGC Responsible Dog Owner Pledge, because it doesn't matter if your dog's a good citizen if you're not. So it's really important that both you and your dog go through this training and understanding of what it is to be a responsible, good dog owner. Probably everyone listening to this broadcast is a responsible, good dog owner, and certainly their dog could probably pass this test. But let's go over the specifics. The first thing your dog has to do is accept a friendly stranger. So what that means is that a person your dog doesn't know will come up to the dog, shake the handler's hand, talk to the handler in a natural way. How's the weather? How old's your dog? What's his name? That sort of thing. And the dog will quietly allow this person to come and interact with their person. And this is a pretty easy thing for most dogs, but if your dog isn't good with certain types of people or hats or colors or big coats, this is the kind of stuff you're going to want to work on before you do the accept a friendly stranger. And the tests that I've taken, and all of my dogs have been CGC dogs. I can't even imagine having a dog that couldn't do this test, because these are things I want my dogs to do, and I think all of us want our dogs to be able to do these things. So accept the friendly stranger, and often some testers will make that part of the test and you'll formally start at a certain point. Other testers, the minute you walk in the door, they're assessing if your dog can accept a friendly stranger. So just be aware of that when you go to meet someone to take your test. Your dog should be on his best behavior from the minute you walk in the door, because the accepting the friendly stranger may be occurring when you walk in the door and greet your tester. Your dog should also allow sitting politely for petting. So your dog should allow that friendly stranger to pet your dog while it is with its person. And sitting can be a little bit interpretive. I know dogs in wheelchairs who can't really sit, And so it's just allowing a friendly stranger to pet you. And some dogs aren't comfortable sitting, but you certainly don't want your dog on his guard, up on his tiptoes, leaning forward with a not happy look on his face. You want him to be politely allowing this person to pet him. Because after all, when you're out in public, how many people say, "Oh my gosh, your dog's so cute, let me pet him"? And your dog should be able to do that. Appearance and grooming. Your dog should allow, and if your dog has been a show dog, he's probably okay with this. Your dog should permit someone to check his ears, his front feet, looking like a groomer or a veterinarian would do. So your dog should be able to pick up his paw and let someone look at his toes without getting very upset. And of course, you can do T-touch with your dog's feet. You can look back on prior episodes of Conversations with a Corgi to see what that entails so that you can train your dog to be okay with someone looking at his feet and looking in his ears. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the sitting politely. But your dog should also appear healthy, well-groomed, clean, all of that as well as part of this appearance and grooming. Out for a walk is step 4, and that is following the evaluator's instructions. Your dog will walk next to you on a loose lead with the person that comes with the dog. So that means that, as we say in T-touch world, the snap should be sleeping, meaning it's laying down, not being pulled up. So your dog should walk politely next to you, and this is an important one. A lot of dogs initially, when they get all excited when they're going for a walk, they may be pulley for a little bit. So when you go to get your dog tested, take him for a little stroll around the area before you go in, because you don't want him being all excited. There may be 10 or 12 dogs there for the test. Your dog might not be alone. I think my dogs have been either in groups or alone, depending on where I've been when I've gotten them tested. But it's important that they walk politely on a leash. You don't want them pulling down the street and gasping for air as they're strangling themselves. And it does not stipulate whether you can have a collar or a harness. So your dog could be walking politely in his freedom harness with 2 attachments on the front and up here, and then you just holding the handle. That's acceptable. I don't know about halty type things on the dog's head. I don't think you can come in for a CGC test wearing a gentle leader. I don't see that in the rules here, but I am not an approved tester, although perhaps I might be one day. But I think if your dog is walking on a gentle leader, you should get him used to walking in a harness or a collar for this test. The next step is to, and this can be hard, is to have your dog walk through a crowd. The dog should move about politely in pedestrian traffic and is under control in public places. They can walk around and pass close to several people, at least 3. And this is why you need a few people coming to take your test. I know that with one of my Corgis, the person was kind of a new tester, and we were doing it in the person's basement in their house, which was a nice room. But for the greet another dog, oh my gosh, they just let 3 golden retrievers come bounding down the stairs and bouncing around my poor Corgi, who was overwhelmed. And thank God Winnie was such a good dog. He just sat there and waited for me to tell him what to do, and those dogs were just not good. But anyway, her relatives just grabbed each of the dogs, and we did this walking through a crowd. So, you know, you'll be walking forward, and 2 or 3 people will be coming towards you, and your dog should just move politely around them. It doesn't say exactly how far apart you need to be. Tristan is not tremendously good with other dogs, but as long as he's a couple of feet away from them, he's okay. So the dog should not be stepping on your dog, and your dog should be okay walking by the people, not growling at people. You know, he should be aware of where his feet are so he can get his feet out of the way. Sometimes when I've done this test or watched it being done, they'll have some cones, and you're weaving around the cones, and other people are just going through the cones randomly as well. So that one might be a little hard to practice unless you can go to a dog club or a place where a lot of people are walking dogs and practice having your dog walk through a crowd. And of course, if you're taking a CGC test, your dog's probably walking through crowds on a daily basis because you're taking him with you out into the public for walks and things. The next one is that your dog should sit and down on command and stay in place. The dog must do sit and down on command, And then the owner chooses the position for leaving the dog in a stay. So some dogs like to down stay, some dogs like to sit stay. This is a sit stay dog. So I would not be helping him by asking him to stay down and then walk away, because he wants to see where I am. He wants to be tall, so he wants to be sitting. So the dog must do a sit and a down on command. And it doesn't, you're not really allowed to use treats when you do this, but of course you can train them at home with treats and then just hold your hand like you have a treat and ask your dog to do these things. And then the owner will leave the dog in the stay position and walk away. Usually it's about 12 feet. And most general obedience training classes or puppy training classes will teach you how to have your dog sit and down and stay. These are really important things. Some of these things can be life-saving for your dog. Like I've known dogs that have such a good down but not such a good recall that a person has been able to yell down and the dog will drop before he runs into the road. So these commands are not just silly obedience things. They're really important for your dog. And if he's in a stressful situation and you need him to sit and wait, you need him to sit and wait. So he should know these basic things. Coming when called. The test demonstrates that the dog will come when called by the handler from 10 feet and he's still on his leash. So make sure when you go to take your test that you have a long leash with you or 2 leashes snapped together or a piece of rope that's about 10 feet long. Usually you'll do the sit and the down and then have your dog stay in whatever position you choose. You'll go to the end of his leash 10, 12 feet away, so you still have that connection through the leash with him, and then you ask him to come. And your dog doesn't have to run you over, but he shouldn't go sniffing around the room and wandering about. He really should come straight to you. And again, if you are in a crowded place like a nursing home or something and you drop the leash, before your dog gets run over or lost in a crowd or goes into the elevator, you want him to come to you. So these are not silly things. The next one is reaction to another dog. This test demonstrates that your dog can behave politely around other dogs. 2 handlers and their dogs approach each other from a distance of about 20 feet, stop, shake hands, and exchange pleasantries. So in this case, in the walking through a crowd, there may or may not be dogs, but there'll be lots of people walking around your dog. With the reaction to another dog, it is a dog coming towards your dog and you coming towards them. So you're going to be at a distance of 20 feet and you're going to have to stand there and talk to the person. The best way to train this, I think, is to have your dog learn something about heel, walk forward, ask him to sit before you get near the other dog, and then he will not feel so threatened. One of the things that's not a great idea is to have 2 dogs walking straight towards each other. So when I've done this test, I kind of meander around a little bit sideways so my dog can see the other dog and not feel threatened, especially since most of the test dogs are much bigger than my little Corgis. Corgis are short and they have a bit of an attitude. So I try to keep my dog working with me and the other dog just happens to be in the room. And as long as you can keep your dog's focus on you, you should be okay with the reaction to another dog. You're going to have to stand there just like you would walking in the park on a nice day, talking to somebody about their dog. In this test, you need to be able to shake that person's hand. So you're going to be that close to them, but it doesn't say which side of you your dog needs to be on, whether you shake with your right or left hand. So that it is possible to keep your dog pretty separate from the other dog. And the other dog for this reaction to another dog should be a friendly dog. It should not be a dog that's leaping and plunging and ready to pounce on your dog and play. It shouldn't be like a 6-month-old Labrador puppy that has nothing on his mind but, running around. Reaction to a distraction. This test is on service and therapy dog tests as well. The evaluator selects and presents 2 distractions to the dog being tested, such as dropping a chair. I've had people drop books. I've had people clap and stomp their feet suddenly. It's just a loud noise. Or I've had people do the things that you see when you're getting your dog's picture taken. They're whispering, they're whistling, they're rattling treat bags or something like that. So your dog should remain calm and focused on you while whatever is going on is happening. For instance, when they drop the book, your dog should not run to the end of his leash barking and leaping at the person who's dropping a book. So this is not hard, but if you don't practice it, it can be distracting to your dog. And the last part is the supervised separation. So this is always at the end of the test. I've never had anyone do it in another order. This test demonstrates that the dog can be left with a trusted person if necessary and will maintain training and his good manners. Evaluators are encouraged to say something like, "Would you like me to watch your dog?" and then take a hold of the dog's leash. The owner will go out of sight for 3 minutes. I don't know, are there deer out there, Biscuit? The dog does not have to stay in a position such as sit or down, but they should not continuously bark, whine, or pace, or show anything stronger than mild agitation or nervousness. Evaluators may talk to the dog, but not engage in excessive talking, petting, or management attempts. For instance, they're allowed to say, "They're there, it's okay," and give them a little pat. So this supervised separation can be hard. Like, you literally have to go around the corner out of your dog's sight. Now, I practice this at home with my dog in a sit-stay, and I just walk out of the kitchen and, go around the corner of the dining room, count to 10 or something, and then turn around and come back. And you can do this from a shorter distance when you're first teaching your dog. It's kind of like playing hide and seek. And then I give them a treat when I come back to them. And this is something that you can get somebody to help you with, to hold your dog. Most of these people that are doing the test are really good dog handlers, and so your dog's not going to feel insecure with them. They're usually people that are pretty clear with their boundaries, and they know, the dog's just going to be sitting there waiting with them. And so the supervised separation can be hard. And sometimes I've known some testers to allow that person to be a friend of you that's holding your dog. It just depends on what the evaluator wants to do. Since I don't have a friend that goes with me to these tests, it's just me and my kids, my dogs have been okay being held by a different person. But you can see how if you have a pretty nervous little Chihuahua, being left alone with another person can be kind of unnerving for them. So these are the 10 things that your dog needs to do to pass the Canine Good Citizen test. And as I said, there's testers everywhere. You can find somebody in your area to test your dog, and you can retake the test if your dog doesn't pass. And you can also, some dog training places have a whole program just to get your dog trained to be a CGC dog. So you might have a 10-week class or a 5-week class where you work on each of these things every time you come, and then at the end you can take the test. My friend did this with her dog when he was only, 8 months old, and it was a colossal failure. The dog is still a puppy. She couldn't focus. They hadn't worked with her that much. She hadn't done so well in her obedience puppy school. So this was really hard for her, and my friend became really aware of the fact that her dog would not work out as a CGC dog or a therapy dog as she had hoped, because the dog was nervous, uncomfortable around strangers, and tended to bark a lot when she was nervous. And these are not things that you want for your dog to be in a therapy dog setting. The dog needs to be calm. And some dogs, like Tristan when he was younger, this stuff wasn't as easy for him. Now he's older, he's more settled, he's been in the world a lot, so don't give up hope. If your dog doesn't pass this when he's 2, he might be a senior dog, 10, 9, and find his message in life to be a therapy dog and a CGC dog. So don't give up if your dog doesn't pass. So this is the Responsible Dog Owner's Pledge. It's pretty long. I'm going to read it from the AKC website, and just be aware that these are the kinds of things we want every dog owner to do, no matter you're taking the test or not. I will be responsible for my dog's health needs, including routine veterinary care, including checkups and vaccines. That does not mean that you have to get them every time, but you will be aware when your dog is due for one and run a titer. That's allowable. Adequate nutrition through proper diet, clean water at all times, daily exercise, and regular grooming and bathing. I will be responsible for my dog's safety. I will properly control my dog by providing fencing where appropriate, not letting my dog run loose, and keeping him on a leash in public. I will ensure that my dog has some form of identification, and when appropriate, which may include collars, tattoos, microchips, tags, anything that identifies your dog. I will provide adequate supervision when my dog and children are together. This is a really important one that they delineate out separately from the others, because children are not always very good with dogs. As much as their person says, oh, he has a dog at home, well, they may have a 100-pound Rottweiler and their petting may be, really hard on a little Chihuahua. So you really need to closely supervise your dog with children. And they recognize this as an issue and put it in the owner's pledge. I will not allow my dog to infringe on the rights of others. And that means, jumping up on someone's lap when you're maybe in a place outside eating with your dog. This includes peeing on other people's legs, which I've had a lot of dogs do to me. It includes trying to herd other people and nipping them in their heels. Your dog is not allowed to infringe on the rights of others. I will not allow my dog to run loose in the neighborhood. This is something we all used to do with our dogs because that's how dogs got along. And Temple Grandin writes about this in one of her books, being actually a good thing emotionally for dogs because they have a pack. But there also were kids running around the neighborhood too, and the dogs were usually with them, and they were pretty safe, and life was just different then than it is now. So letting your dog run loose in the neighborhood is no longer a good idea. It's dangerous because of cars. It's dangerous because of wildlife in many areas. Just in my neighborhood the other day, there was a coyote running around at the high school, and that would not be a good place to have your dog running around. So running in the neighborhood is dangerous for your dog in a variety of ways. I will not allow my dog to be a nuisance to others while barking in the yard, in a hotel room, or etc. And in fact, my neighbors across the street have moved because they could not control their dogs from excessive barking, which, they really were barking 24 hours a day, which the homeowners thought was related to the wildlife that the dogs could see outside the windows. I think it had some management issues going on there as well. But teaching your dog not to bark excessively in the yard or in a hotel or anywhere that you are, like if you go out for lunch and you're in an outside place sitting with your dog should not be barking at people walking by. So that's an important one, and it's not always easy to keep your dog from barking. Some are barkier than others. I will pick up and properly dispose of my dog's waste in all public areas, such as on the grounds of hotels, on sidewalks, in parks, etc. I will pick up and properly dispose of my dog's waste in wilderness areas, hiking trails, campgrounds, and in off-leash dog parks. So make sure you pick up after your dog. Everybody should have a little poo bag container at the end of their leash and use it liberally. There really is no place in the world where you can leave your dog's poo. You don't want to leave it on your neighbor's yards. You don't want to leave it in the woods. You don't want to leave it in the wilderness. You want to pick it up and dispose of it properly. And certainly we've learned a sad lesson at our beaches from the amount of dog poo there. There's been E. coli problems in some of the marshy, more inland areas at beaches. Make sure you pick up your dog's poo, especially at beaches. And don't pick it up and leave it in a bag somewhere and think you're going to get it when you come back, because many is the time I've seen an abandoned dog poo bag laying on the beach for 3 days. Nobody's coming back to get it. And there are some really great dog owners who will go along with a big bag that's empty and fill it with all of the crap on the beach and the leftover bags. So that's a wonderful thing to do, but make sure as a dog owner you pledge to pick up your poop. Be responsible for your poop. I will be responsible for my dog's quality of life, meaning you won't leave him in a crate 23 hours a day, and you will make sure he has exercise, and you will make sure he has friends, and you will make sure he's socialized, he has intellectual stimulation. You want to make sure your dog is happy. Don't feed him bad food. Take good care of your dog. I understand that basic training is beneficial to all dogs. So of course, the sit, the come, the down, the wait, all of those are really important things for your dog's health. It is not necessarily about making your dog an obedient servant, but it's more about keeping your dog in a situation where he's safe and happy. So your dog should have basic obedience training. I will give my dog attention and playtime. Playtime, this is what the CGC test has you be concerned about. Playtime. Dogs need to play. Dogs are very intelligent. They need interaction with humans. They crave interaction with humans. Again, don't leave them in a crate 23 hours a day. Your dogs need to play and take walks and see other dogs and have a good quality of life. And the last part of that pledge is, I understand that owning a dog is a commitment in time and caring. And of course, the rewards of pet ownership are limitless. You get so much from having a relationship with your dog. And it is a commitment, and it does take time, and it does take caring. But for most of us, these are things that we happily embrace because of all the benefits we get from the dogs or the cats or the bunnies or the horses in our lives. So this pledge, maybe I'll make a blog and post it or something, but this pledge is really important for every pet owner to look at and consider, because most of these points are things that we want every polite animal to do. People sometimes will say, like, I love kids, but I don't love all kids, because some kids are not falling into these guidelines. You know, they're running around and putting dirty hands on your new skirt or something like that. And the same applies to our pets. You know, not all pets are polite, and you don't have to like an impolite pet just because you love dogs. So every dog or cat should be able to greet people politely, not infringe on other people, not walk across your dinner plate if you're a dinner guest, unless you expect that. And your dog should also be polite with people coming to the house and things like that. So even if your dog is not going to be a therapy dog, and if you're not going to take this test anytime soon, these are good things to practice with your dog and teach him to do, so that he is a polite citizen and your life with him will be much more pleasant. And honestly, it's really fun to teach your dog these things. I love working with my dog when I have a list like this of 10 things I want to check off that he can do. So that's a little bit about the Canine Good Citizen Test. Do you have anything to say? He says, I've been a good citizen for 7 years. And he is a good citizen. And in spite of how afraid he is of a lot of other dogs, he's generally quite polite greeting them, as long as they're not way out of line with him. So that's his fall. So good luck with your dog. I hope we get to see lots of canine good citizens. Biskies. Thanks for joining us today, where we've looked at the Canine Good Citizen Test from the AKC. Have fun training your dog and making him or her a good citizen too. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.